They arrested my wife. Not for stealing. Not for violence. They arrested her because our lawn was brown. The phone call that destroyed my world came at 10:15 a.m. I was at my desk, staring at a spreadsheet, my mind lost in the numbers of a complex audit. My phone buzzed. It was Sarah. I picked it up with a smile. "Hey, hon, I'm a little busy." "Mark." The way she screamed my name, it wasn't a hello. It was terror. "Mark, you have to come home." She actually did it. "They're arresting me." My blood turned to ice. "What? Sarah, slow down." "It's Karen," she sobbed, and the sound was so broken I could barely understand her. "The HO, she called the police. They're putting me in the car." "Mark, it's about the lawn." "Oh God, Mark, hurry." The line went dead. I didn't say goodbye to my boss. I didn't grab my coat. I just ran. I sprinted through the office, down the elevator, and into the parking garage. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would break. A 20-minute drive felt like an eternity. Every red light was a personal torture. I finally slammed my car onto our street, and my stomach lurched. It was exactly like a scene from a nightmare. 3 police cruisers, their lights flashing, painting the whole neighborhood in red and blue panic. My neighbors were all out on their perfect, green lawns, filming with their phones. And I saw her, my wife, Sarah, standing by a police car. An officer was holding her arm. She was pale and visibly shaking, trying not to cry as she looked at me. And in the middle of it all, standing on the sidewalk, was Karen, the HOA President. She had her clipboard. Her face was a mask of cold, smug, righteous victory. This was her triumph. I slammed the car door and ran. "Sarah, what is going on here?" "That's my wife." Karen turned to me, and her smile was the most poisonous thing I had ever seen. "Oh good, Mr. Davis. You're here. You can finally take some responsibility. You can explain to the officer why your wife has been belligerent. I am pressing charges." The officer stepped in front of me. "Sir, you need to calm down. Your wife is being detained for." He actually looked down at his notes as if he couldn't believe it. "Multiple code violations, criminal nuisance, and failure to comply." "Criminal nuisance?" I yelled. "For what?" "For our lawn." And that's what this was all about. Our lawn. Let me explain something. I'm an accountant. My wife, Sarah, is the kindest person I know. We're not bad people. We're not lazy. We are just tired. We'd had a hard 6 months. Our youngest son had gotten very sick, and the recovery was slow. The medical bills started piling up. On top of that, our sprinkler system broke in the middle of a brutal heat wave. The repair was $2,000 we just didn't have. The lawn was the last thing on our minds. It turned brown. A few weeds popped up. To a normal person, it was a sign of a family that was struggling. To Karen, it was a personal insult. The fines started a month ago. $100 for dead grass. $500 for unapproved weeds. $1,000 for failure to maintain community aesthetic. Last week, the total fines had reached $10,000. We were drowning in them. Sarah had tried to talk to her. She went to her house, trying to explain. She told her about our son's illness, about the medical bills, about me working overtime. She begged her for just a little time, a little compassion. Karen looked her right in the eye and said, "The rules are the rules. If you can't afford to maintain your property, maybe you shouldn't live here." And now this. Karen had found an old, forgotten city ordinance that said a severely neglected property could be considered a public fire hazard. And she had used it to have my wife, who was still supposed to be recovering from her own medical issues, arrested on our front lawn in front of our children. "Officer," Karen said, her voice dripping with fake authority, "we are prepared to take this all the way. This family's negligence is bankrupting our community's property values." I looked at Karen. She was enjoying the show, enjoying my wife's tears, enjoying her power. She thought she was bankrupting me over a lawn. She thought she was winning. What this woman didn't know, what she couldn't know, was who I am. I'm not just a dad. I'm not just a husband. I'm a forensic accountant. My entire job, the one I just ran from, is finding money that powerful, arrogant, and stupid people try to hide. My career is built on finding fraud. And I just realized she had given me a reason to look. She wanted to bankrupt me? Fine. I was about to use her own rules to find out exactly where every single dime of the HOA's money had been going for the last 5 years. The war wasn't about the lawn anymore. It was about the books. And she had just picked a fight with the one man she was never, ever going to beat. But to really understand how we got to a place of arrests and war, you have to understand where we lived. You have to understand Chestnut Ridge. On the surface, it was the American dream. A quiet, suburban neighborhood with wide, clean streets, rows of identical mailboxes, and lawns so green they looked like carpets. It was the kind of place people moved to for the good schools and the safe trick-or-treating. But that perfection came at a price. And that price was the Homeowners Association. When we first moved in, we thought the rules were just quirky. All mailboxes must be Model 2B, painted chestnut brown. Holiday decorations may not be erected more than 14 days before the holiday and must be removed within 48 hours after. We laughed about it. It seemed harmless. Our life here was busy, but it was good. My wife, Sarah, is the real hero of this family. She was and is a full-time supermom to our 3 kids, all of them under 6 years old. Her days were a whirlwind of diapers, playdates, and trying to get a toddler to eat something that wasn't a goldfish cracker. She was overwhelmed, always tired, but she was the glue that held our entire world together. And me? Well, you know what I do. My job as a forensic accountant is the complete opposite of my home life. It's quiet. It's slow. It's methodical. I spend my days in a world of spreadsheets and bank ledgers, looking for patterns, looking for the tiny numbers that just don't add up. My job is to find the truth that people try to hide in plain sight. It's not exciting, but it's what I'm good at. We were a normal family, just trying to keep our heads above water. We paid our dues on time. We smiled at the neighbors. We tolerated the HOA's quirks. And then there was Karen. Karen wasn't just the HOA president. She was the neighborhood's self-appointed queen. She was a woman in her late 50s who had, as far as I could tell, no job, no hobbies, and no joy in her life outside of enforcing the rules. You'd see her every morning, 9 a.m. sharp. She'd be wearing tennis shoes, khaki shorts, and a bright pink visor pulled down low. And she always had that clipboard. That clipboard was her weapon. She would patrol, and I mean patrol, the sidewalks, her head swiveling back and forth, just looking for a violation. A garbage can left out an hour past the 6 p.m. deadline. A basketball hoop that wasn't perfectly aligned with the driveway. I once saw her try to find a neighbor because their welcome mat was, and I quote, not a pre-approved earth tone. She was a woman who was absolutely drunk on the tiny, insignificant amount of power the HOA bylaws gave her. This woman lived for the power trip. It's almost funny in a dark way. I'm sure every single person listening has a story about someone just like this, a nightmare boss, a terrible neighbor, or their own HOA Karen. Let me know in the comments what's the craziest, pettiest rule someone has tried to enforce on you. Reading them will probably make us all feel a little less alone. For years, we just stayed off her radar. We painted our mailbox the right color. We put our trash cans away on time. We were the quiet, boring family in the beige house. We never imagined she would, or even could, turn her sights on us. We never imagined that a personal family crisis would be the opening she was looking for. We never thought she was anything more than a neighborhood pest. That was our mistake. We severely underestimated just how far she was willing to go. That was our mistake. We severely underestimated just how far she was willing to go. And we found out just how far that was about 3 months later when what I call the perfect storm, hit our family. It wasn't one single disaster. It was a slow, crushing series of events, one right after the other, that left us completely exposed. It started with our youngest son. He was only 2. He came down with a respiratory illness that just wouldn't quit. It wasn't a simple cold. It was a lingering, scary cough that led to sleepless nights, visits to specialists, and a pile of copays and medical bills that started to stack up on our kitchen counter. We were exhausted. Sarah was holding down the fort, but I could see the stress wearing her down. We were in survival mode. And, of course, that's when the universe decides to kick you. Right in the middle of a brutal 100-degree summer heat wave, our ancient sprinkler system gave out. I heard it, a sickly gurgle from the control box, and then nothing. I'm not a plumber, but I knew it was bad. The repair quote came back at just over $2,000. $2,000. A year ago, it would have been an annoyance. But now, staring at that quote and the fresh stack of medical bills, it was an impossible choice. It was a choice between paying the lung specialist or fixing the lawn. It wasn't really a choice at all. We paid the doctors. The lawn, naturally, didn't care about our problems. Under that blazing sun, it didn't stand a chance. It went from green to patchy to a dry, yellowing straw-like mat in about 2 weeks. It was ugly, no question about it. But it was the last thing on our minds. Until the first crisp, white envelope was taped to our front door. It was from Karen. Violation, Code 14B, failure to maintain community aesthetic standard, lawn. It came with a polite, passive-aggressive warning and a 14-day cure period. Sarah, who was already stressed to her breaking point, sat down and wrote a polite, detailed, and human email. She explained everything. She told Karen about our son's illness, about the unexpected medical bills, and about the broken sprinkler system. She attached a copy of the repair quote. She wasn't asking for a handout. She was asking for a little human decency. She formally requested a 60-day variance to give us time to get back on our feet. We were being reasonable. We were being transparent. We assumed she would be too. The reply came back in less than 10 minutes. That's how I know she didn't even really read it. It was 2 sentences. Dear Mrs. Davis, the rules are the rules. A broken sprinkler is a routine maintenance issue, not a medical emergency. Your request for a variance is denied. No, I'm sorry to hear about your son. No, let's discuss this. Just a cold, hard no. A week later, the first real fine arrived in a thick, cream-colored envelope. It wasn't a warning. It was a bill. $1,000 for failure to comply. My heart hammered in my chest. This wasn't a fine. It was a punishment. This was an escalation. I tried to call her. Straight to voicemail. Sarah tried to catch her on her morning patrol, and Karen literally held up her hand, clipboard first, and said, I am not discussing this with you, before walking right past her. The lawn, of course, was still dead. We were still broke. 2 weeks later, another envelope. This one was certified. The fine had been increased to $2,500 for continued and willful negligence. I felt like I was suffocating. We were drowning in medical debt, and this woman was gleefully holding our heads underwater. We were now in a panic. We were scraping together every dime we could, but it was like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. 10 days after that, another fine. $5,000. The letter now included words like community blight and severe noncompliance. This woman wasn't just fining us. She was trying to break us. She was trying to bankrupt us. She was enjoying it. The final straw came on a rainy Tuesday. The mailman knocked on the door, holding that little green certified mail slip that always means bad news. I signed for it, my hand feeling numb. I opened it. It wasn't from Karen. It was from the HOA's law firm. It was a formal demand letter. It detailed every fine, every violation, and a new, terrifying list of legal fees, administrative charges, and late penalties. The new grand total was $10,472. And then I read the last sentence, and the blood drained from my face. If this amount is not paid in full within 30 days, the Chestnut Ridge HOA will begin foreclosure proceedings by placing a lien on your property. A lien. She was going to take our house. She was going to make my family homeless, all because our lawn died while our son was sick. This was no longer a dispute. This was a threat to my family's survival. And I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. It got worse just 2 days later. I was at my desk, neck deep in spreadsheets, my mind a million miles away. I was trying to figure out how we could possibly fight a lien, how we could afford a lawyer and pay our medical bills. I was running numbers that just didn't add up. Then my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. I picked it up, ready to give her a tired, "Hey, hun." "Mark." The way she screamed my name, it wasn't a greeting. It was pure, unfiltered terror. "Mark, you have to come home. You have to come home now." She actually did it. "They're arresting me." My blood turned to ice. My entire body went cold. "What?" "Sarah, slow down, I can't understand you." "It's Karen," she sobbed, the sound so broken it barely sounded like her. "The HO, she called the police. They're putting me in handcuffs. Mark, it's about the lawn." "Oh God, Mark, the kids are here. Hurry." The line went dead. I didn't say goodbye to my boss. I didn't grab my coat. I just ran. I sprinted through the office, past the confused faces of my colleagues, down the elevator, my heart hammering so hard against my ribs I thought it would break. The 20-minute drive home was a blur of adrenaline and white-hot rage. Every red light was a personal torture. My mind was just cycling. Arresting her? For what? This isn't possible. This can't be real. I finally slammed my car onto our street, skidding to a stop at the curb. And my stomach dropped. It was real. It was a nightmare. Our quiet, suburban street was lit up. A police cruiser was parked in our driveway, its lights painting our beige house in pulsing, accusatory flashes of red and blue. My neighbors were on their perfect green lawns, not helping, not asking if everything was okay, just watching. Some of them were filming with their phones. And I saw her. I saw Sarah. She was on our front porch in handcuffs. The officer was leading her down the steps. Our 3-year-old son was clinging to her leg, his face buried in her pants, just wailing. Our 5-year-old was standing frozen by the door, pale, his eyes wide with a kind of shock and confusion no child should ever have. Sarah looked up and saw me. Her face was pale, streaked with tears, her eyes wide with a humiliating terror that I will never, ever forget. And then I saw her. Karen. She was standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed, with her clipboard. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't angry. She was satisfied. Her face was a mask of cold, smug, righteous victory. This was her triumph. This is what she wanted. I slammed the car door and ran. "Sarah, get your hands off my wife. What is going on here?" An officer stepped in front of me, putting a hand on my chest. "Sir, you need to calm down. You need to stay back." "That's my wife," I yelled, pointing. "Why is she in handcuffs? What did she do?" Karen's voice cut through the air, sharp and poisonous. "Oh good, Mr. Davis. You're here. You can finally take some responsibility for this. This blight. I tried to warn you." "Warn me?" "You're having her arrested." The officer, to his credit, looked deeply embarrassed. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He looked down at his notepad. "Sir, the HOA President has filed a formal complaint for criminal nuisance based on a city ordinance regarding property neglect and blight." I couldn't breathe. Criminal nuisance? For our lawn. That was it. That was the moment. Seeing my wife in handcuffs. Seeing my children sobbing, terrified. Seeing the humiliation she had put my family through, all while our neighbors filmed it for their entertainment. And seeing that smug, satisfied look on Karen's face. Something inside me didn't just break. It snapped into place. The panic vanished. The hot, frantic rage went ice cold. It became something solid and sharp and calm. This woman had crossed a line. She had used the law as a weapon to terrorize my family over a patch of dead grass. I looked right at Karen. She was still smirking. She thought she had won. She thought she had broken us. She had no idea what she had just started. This was never going to be about the lawn again. This was war. And she had just pushed me from a defensive position into a full-blown offensive. The offensive didn't start with shouting. It started with the quiet, humiliating drive to the police station. I had to post bail. I had to sign paperwork that listed my wife, Sarah, a woman who volunteers for bake sales, as a criminal. The booking sergeant just stared at the report. "You're telling me," he said, "this is about grass?" I just nodded, my jaw clenched. "Yes, sir. It's about grass." The ride home was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Sarah was silent, just empty. We got a neighbor to watch the kids, who were just terrified. When we got inside, Sarah collapsed on the sofa. "She won, Mark," she whispered, her voice cracking. "She's really going to do it. She's going to take our house." I went to the kitchen. I felt the hot, panicked adrenaline draining out, replaced by something cold, heavy, and familiar. It was the click, the feeling I get at work. The panicked husband was gone. The forensic accountant had just clocked in. I walked back in. "She didn't win," I said, my voice quiet but hard. "She just made a very big mistake." Sarah looked up, confused. "What are you talking about?" "She has lawyers." "I'm not talking about the lawn," I said. "I don't care about the lawn anymore. She's trying to bankrupt us with fake fines, so I'm going to find out where the real money is. The HOA's money. As homeowners, we are shareholders. We have rights. She just gave me a reason to use them." That night, after Sarah and the kids were asleep, I went to my office. I didn't look at our medical bills. I looked at the Chestnut Ridge HOA covenants, the CC and RS, the thick binder of rules Karen loved so much. I read for hours until, at 4 a.m., I found it. Article 9, Section 4. Inspection of books and records. It stated in clear language that any homeowner, upon written request, had the right to inspect all financial books, records, ledgers, and bank statements. She built her kingdom on this book. It was time to see if she'd followed the rules herself. The next morning, I took a personal day. I drafted a formal, ice-cold, professional letter. Not as Mark the Angry Husband, but as Mark Davis, homeowner of record. I CC'd the HOA's law firm. In the letter, I cited Article 9, Section 4. I requested everything: 5 years of bank statements, all vendor invoices, the general ledger. I gave them 10 business days as specified in the bylaws and sent it via certified mail. The receipt came back 2 days later. Signed, K. Jensen. Then silence. For 4 days. The call came, not from Karen, but from the HOA's lawyer. "Mr. Davis," he said, annoyed, "we've received your unusual request. It's very broad, disruptive. What exactly are you looking for?" I kept my voice calm. "I'm a homeowner exercising my right. Are you telling me the board is refusing a legal request?" A long pause. "No, of course not," he stammered. "But this is voluminous. It will take time." "That's an administrative problem," I said. "You have 5 days left. I'll expect the documents by Friday." I hung up. Friday at 5 p.m. sharp, a courier van wheeled 6 heavy banker's boxes up my driveway. It was a power move meant to bury me in paperwork. She had no idea. This wasn't a punishment. This was Christmas. Sarah looked at the mountain of paper. "My God, Mark, what is all this?" I tapped the top box. "This," I said, "is the truth." For the next 48 hours, I didn't sleep. I locked myself in my office. I made coffee. I built spreadsheets. I cross-referenced invoices with bank statements. At first, it just looked sloppy. Then I saw it. A recurring payment. for $1,000. Paid out on the 1st of every month. Vendor, Chestnut Landscaping Services, LLC. I looked at the invoices. They were thin. No details. Just for landscaping services. And the address was a P.O. box. My heart started to beat faster. This is what I do. I went to the Secretary of State's website. I did a business search for Chestnut Landscaping Services, LLC. The business was registered 2 years ago. I clicked the link for Registered Agent. And that's when my heart stopped. The name listed as the sole owner was Kay Jensen. Karen. She wasn't just fining us. She was robbing us. She had created a fake shell corporation, paying herself $4,000 a month, $48,000 a year of our money for services never rendered. I dug deeper. I found the real landscaping company. They were getting paid too. This was a double dip. She was embezzling. I printed the LLC registration, the fake invoices, the bank statements. She wanted to bankrupt me over $10,000. I had just found proof she had stolen nearly $100,000. I had the smoking gun, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. I had the smoking gun, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. I wasn't going to send an angry, anonymous email. I wasn't going to file a lawsuit, not yet. I was going to wait for the one day of the year Karen felt most powerful. The annual Homeowners Association meeting. It was 2 weeks later. The meeting was held, as always, in the sad, beige community center clubhouse. It smelled like stale coffee and industrial carpet cleaner. About 30 of my neighbors were there, most of them looking bored, just wanting to get through the budget presentation so they could go home. And at the front, behind a folding table, sat Karen. She was in her element. She had her clipboard, a binder, and a gavel she used even though it was a room of 30 people. She was running through the new budget, her voice dripping with authority, talking about increasing dues for community beautification and enforcement. I saw her look at me and Sarah as we walked in. We sat in the back. She gave me a tiny, smug smirk. She thought we were there to beg. She thought we were beaten. I just sat there, patient. She finally finished her presentation on the budget. And now, she said, we'll open the floor to new business. Does anyone have anything for the board? Her eyes scanned the room, daring someone to speak. They landed on me. Ah, Mr. Davis, she said, her voice dripping with fake politeness. I see you're here. Do you have a compliance issue you'd like to discuss? The room went quiet. Everyone knew about our fines. Everyone had seen my wife arrested. This was the show. I stood up. I wasn't holding a complaint. I was holding a laptop. Actually, Karen, I do, I said. My voice was calm and clear. It cut right through the stillness. I have a presentation. It's about the budget. As a forensic accountant, I just had a few questions about some of the expenditures I found in the books. I didn't wait for her permission. I walked to the front of the room, and I plugged my laptop into the little projector they used for their budget slides. What is this? Karen snapped, her face flushing. This isn't on the agenda. You can't just. I'm just exercising my right as a homeowner to discuss the budget, Karen, I said, looking her right in the eye. You know the rules. I turned to the wall. The projector flickered, and a plain, simple spreadsheet lit up the screen. Let's start, I said, my voice echoing a little. I was reviewing the last 2 years of expenses. Let's look at landscaping. We pay Evergreen landscapers $5,000 a month. Their invoices are very detailed. They list mowing, trimming, fertilizer, all the things we pay for. I clicked. But I also noticed we pay a second landscaping company. A company called Chestnut Landscaping Services, LLC. We pay them $4,000 a month. Every month. I heard a few people in the room murmur. I could see the other, useless board members next to Karen starting to look confused. Now, that's odd, isn't it? I continued. 2 landscaping companies? especially since the invoices for Chestnut Landscaping. I clicked again. A blurry, thin invoice appeared on the screen. Are very simple. They just say, for landscaping services. No itemization. No hours. No service dates. Just a bill. For $4,000. I glanced at Karen. Her smile was gone. Her knuckles were white, gripping the edge of her clipboard. So, I said, I thought, who is this company? I did a simple business search on the Secretary of State's website. You know, it's public records. Anyone can do it. And this is what I found. I clicked. The next slide was a screenshot from the state website. The official registration document for Chestnut Landscaping Services, LLC. And on the line for registered agent and sole owner was the name K. Jensen. There was a single, collective gasp from the room. Someone in the back said, "Oh my God." Karen shot to her feet. Her face was a blotchy, deep red. This is slander. This is an invasion of my privacy. Those documents are fake. You faked them. I'm not finished, I said. My voice was cold. It cut right through her panic. I'm just presenting the facts from your books. The books you gave me. This LLC, Karen, is registered to your home address. The one we all know. And these, I clicked again, are the bank transfers. From the Chestnut Ridge HOA account, directly into the bank account for your company. The screen was filled with a bank ledger. Line after line. Transfer, transfer, transfer. For $1,000 a month, I said, letting the numbers sink in. For 24 months. That is $96,000. Karen was stammering, backing up against the wall. I'm calling the police. That won't be necessary, I said. I already did. As if on cue, the two doors at the back of the clubhouse swung open. Two police detectives, in suits, walked in. They weren't the local cops Karen had called on my wife. These were from the Economic Crimes Division. The same two detectives I had spent 3 hours with the day before, walking them through my entire, perfect audit. They didn't look at me. They didn't look at the screen. They walked straight to the front of the room. "Ma'am," the lead detective said, his voice firm. "Are you K. Jensen?" Karen just stared, her mouth open, all the blood drained from her face. She looked like a cornered animal. "You need to come with us. We have a warrant for your arrest on suspicion of felony embezzlement and wire fraud." The sound of the handcuffs clicking shut. That sound, it was the most satisfying sound I have ever heard in my entire life. It was justice. They were putting her in handcuffs. The same woman who had my wife arrested over grass. They were leading her out, in front of all the neighbors she had terrorized, bullied, and stolen from for years. Her face wasn't smug anymore. It was a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. She had been so busy enjoying her power trip, she never once thought a victim would have the skills to fight back. I looked over at Sarah, who was standing in the back. She had tears in her eyes, but this time, she was smiling. The war was over, and we had won. I looked over at Sarah, who was standing in the back. She had tears in her eyes, but this time, she was smiling. The war was over, and we had won. The fallout, as you can probably guess, was immediate. That meeting fell into absolute chaos. People were shouting, demanding answers from the other board members, who had just sat there silently while Karen ran her little dictatorship. They looked like deer in the headlights. One by one, they resigned, right there on the spot. The first official act of the new, emergency elected board? It took less than 30 seconds. They held a vote to unanimously void every single fine, every late fee, and the $10,000 lien against our home. Just like that, it was gone. And the criminal nuisance charge against Sarah? The lead detective, the one who arrested Karen, called me personally the next day. He apologized for what the local officers had been forced to do. He confirmed all charges against Sarah were being dropped, and that our family would be listed as the primary victims in the state's felony case against Karen. Karen, it turns out, couldn't bully her way out of a legal audit. With my spreadsheets, the bank statements, and the proof of her own shell corporation, the evidence was perfect. It was an open and shut case. She pled guilty to avoid a longer trial, but the judgment was the real justice. The court ordered her to pay full restitution for every single dime she had stolen, a total that came to nearly $100,000. And that's what truly ruined her. She had no way to pay it, except one. About 6 weeks later, a for sale sign went up on her perfect, manicured lawn. She was forced to sell her home, the one she lorded over all of us from, just to pay back the community she had robbed. Last I heard, she lost everything and had to move in with a relative 2 states away. She tried to take our house over a dead lawn, and in the end, she lost her own over a fake company. Our life? It became peaceful. Incredibly peaceful. The new HOA board is, well, they're just normal, reasonable people. They actually asked me to be the new treasurer. I politely, very politely, declined. Oh, and the lawn. The thing that started it all. With the stress of the fines and the lien gone, we finally had the money to fix our sprinkler system. And you know what? 2 of our neighbors, the ones who had just stood and watched my wife's arrest, came over. They apologized. They said they had no idea what was really happening. They and a few other families threw what they called a community sod day. They brought their wheelbarrows, some food, and we all worked together to fix our lawn. It's amazing what can happen when a tyrant is removed. It's funny. Karen built her entire little kingdom on a book of rules she thought only she could use. She never imagined that those same rules, that same fine print, could be used against her. It was a brutal lesson, but one that proves a bully's power only lasts until someone has the patience to read the fine print. Thanks for listening to my story. It's crazy to think this all started with a patch of brown grass. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. And if you have your own story of justice, be sure to share it. Subscribe for more stories like this one, where the people who think they're untouchable finally get exactly what they deserve.